All righty. Well, it was time for the main event of this television program. And remember, let's recap real briefly. We had Darby and Pockets against Swerve and Keith Lee for 20 minutes. Then we had the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn against the Baker and the Bollywood Boys. Then we had MJF and Cole against Daddy Mac and the Butcher. Then we had Britt Baker and Ruby Soso. And the main event of this journey through ambivalence was Wheeler Useless against Twinkle Toes McFingerbang. This was the main event. This was something that they had been advertising through the show, expecting people to want to watch on purpose. And again, you can't hot shot every week. I said that earlier. You have to build some things for the future and maybe take a hit on, just getting some talent over. But this show was certainly focusing on very weird talent to try to get over, and you still got to have a match or two in the middle of all of this chaos that people might really want to see. And none of these were it, in my opinion. But they're going to try again. Like the BBC club is going to try with Useless like Tony is trying with Pockets. They look like Ned, and they're not really in any way striking examples of star power, but we like them, so we're going to put them on everything. All the guys wearing tape. Now, is this a new invention? You're younger than I am, Brian. You have somewhat of an athletic past. I understand taping the ankle, taping the knee, taping the wrist, the white athletic tape. It gives you support. It's like, in effect, if you get a good taper, it's kind of like having a cast on. Your joint that's injured can't, move anywhere. But these guys with this, it looks like, their favorite
like
cartoon. It looks like their favorite cartoon characters are on the tape, and it's just haphazardly affixed to certain areas, and it looks like it would do fuck all of nothing if you were injured in any way to support anything meaningful. What the fuck is going on here? If you were injured, how the fuck would any of this help?
It's athletic tape that's used for sore spots. It's supposed to help in some way by doing something. There are some people that think it's a placebo effect, but athletes do think that applying it to sore spots does help.
It's something that will do something.
I guess that's a question. Do you want a wrestler going out there wearing that stuff? Is it necessary? Can you not work the match if you're not wearing that stuff? And do you want them going out there wearing that stuff? Does it add legitimacy, or does it make it look bad?
Well, everybody's starting to look the fucking same again. Everybody's all taped up, but from the looks of this tape, 3 strips over a shoulder and 1 around your goddamn goozle pipe or whatever, if the difference in me not being physically able to wrestle and being able to wrestle was this fucking tape, you're too close to the fucking line of being injured to be in the ring.
If you're a heel, why wouldn't you just start peeling the tape off?
Well, because that would make a lot of sense.
Right? If the tape is helping this guy, he couldn't do this without the tape. He's obviously wearing it for a reason.
What's the first thing you saw Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes with? Brock went after the fucking arm, right?
Right.
What's the first thing you would see in the territories when anybody had tape or had a cast on or had some type of support? The heel would take over and rip off the neck brace or start unwrapping the tape or do whatever the fuck.
Fans would be screaming, yeah.
Screaming bloody murder. They weren't screaming here. They may have been hopefully waiting for a bloody murder, but 20 minutes was the time they had left when this thing got in the ring. And finally, old Twinkle Toes was about to put Wheeler away when Don Fallis came down to the ring and somehow managed all by his lonesome to distract the referee and every bit of security that came after him, and suddenly Take a Shit appeared in the ring behind Twinkle Toes. And just then, Brian, guess what happened?
I watched, but I don't recall. So I really do have to guess if you want me to guess.
Well, I bet you wouldn't even guess, because I'll tell you what happened. Right at that point, that Don Fallis distracted the referee and all the security, and Take a Shit appeared out of nowhere in the ring.
I know what happened.
Behind Kenny, my DVR froze.
That was the overrun.
Because they can't manage time. If you can't get your finish in with 1 minute left on the air for the announcers to react to it and the people to digest it, you've shit the bed. And that's an old Vince McMahon rule, which is why they never go that close to going off the air without the finish.
This is 2 weeks in a row. This is 2 weeks in a row they had the overrun.
Yeah, but here's the thing. In the old days, Raw would overrun, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, or whatever. It would be planned. It would be planned. They would get an overrun, right? It was acknowledged. You're going to get this. They're calling up at the last minute going, we need another minute. We're not going to get this in. Because you don't schedule 2-minute overruns. They just have to happen because the fucking program that's on can't get their shit together. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Brian should teach Jim, or he's too lazy to set his DVR for an extra 5 minutes. No, because it doesn't happen on any other program, wrestling or otherwise, that I record. I get all the finishes. I get the close of the program. I get the reveal of the murderer. I get everything except on AEW, because they're so far behind on their time, and there's such a lack of quality control that they barely get the shit in right before they go off the air. And that ain't my fault or my DVR's fault. And sometimes they got to have extra time to do it. So fuck y'all.
Hey, real quick before we talk about anything else, what are your thoughts on overruns in general? Obviously, it was one thing during the Monday Night War when you were trying to one-up the show that just went off the air. You wanted to capture their viewers and get them to see something hot. When there was no more competition and it seemed to be more of a tool to trick people tuning into the network for the next show to see some of your show, what do you think of using the overrun?
Well, the overrun originally was in the Monday Night Wars so that, you would get that audience that had just been watching wrestling and now that program's off the air, maybe they'll switch over. And then later on, as you mentioned, it became a standard thing where they always had an overrun. And it wasn't to try to, because Raw's ratings at that point were so above most of the other programs, if not all, on the network, that they wanted to, keep people watching across the top of the hour, and then maybe they'd flow right into their next show. But now that, again, there's no head-to-head competition, and there's not a lot of things that AEW has that's keeping people's attention to the end of the program. We've seen that. And the WWE is managing to get the bloodline in that is drawing the ratings and is increasing the viewership before they go off the air at their regular time. I think they ought to do it every so often for an important match. And they ought to obviously schedule it with the network ahead of time, but not tell people, and make the call at 10:50 or whatever it is. Folks, this world title match is still going on, and it's been going for some time. If we don't have a conclusion by the time we're scheduled to go off the air, we understand from the network that we will remain with this match until its conclusion. Then you get people, oh, shit. Well, that's special. That didn't used to ever happen. And then you'll pick up at the top of the hour the people tuning in for the program, but also nobody's going to switch out because something big's going to happen. If you do it every once in a while and you do it like that, it's a bonus, and it adds credibility that the matches don't just always end exactly on time by accident, right? It's a live sporting event. Things happen. Matches go long. That's the kind of way that it's good. But every week, then people just expect it, and it's a thing, and it's not special.